is Cindy Dampier, and I just do my presentation on environmental economics and cleanup policy. The title of my presentation will go as follows. We'll begin with my research question, move on to connection to stimulus, thesis, claims and evidence, solution, and so on. To begin with my research question, it was, should environmental cleanup be implemented by the federal and international government to improve economic efficiency through policy enforcement, transition to clean energy, and using bioremediation over the next decade? My main connection to stimulus was I used Ben Goldfarb's How Roads Have Transformed the Natural World, and he states that roads are a long-term commitment to carbon-intensive living, which shows the environmental destruction caused by roads. He also states that nearly a fifth of America's greenhouse gas emissions are coughed out by cars and trucks, and the transportation sector is the fastest growing contributor to climate change. This shows that roads also embody how pollution affects our world and how a complete shift is necessary in every area of life in order for efforts to be worth it. My secondary connection to stimulus was a sustainability assessment of low Earth orbit satellite broadband mega constellations. It states that a shift toward ultra-dense satellite mega constellations raises new environmental sustainability questions, and this shows the hidden environmental costs of technology and how it increases the necessity of environmental remediation. To begin with, nearly $8.1 trillion are spent a year on health damages caused by pollution, which is 6.1% of the global GDP, which is gross domestic product, and 1 in 9 deaths is caused by pollution damage. Another shocking fact is that 292.4 million tons of waste is created by the USA alone every year. So my thesis statement was that while policy, cleaning energy transition, and bioremediation can all independently contribute to economic and environmental efficiency, combining the enforcement of government policy with clean energy and bioremediation could significantly impact sustainability and economic gains despite short-term trade-offs. So the first part of my solution was enforcement of already created government policy. This would not bind companies and instead induce innovation while increasing economic efficiency and protecting the environment simultaneously. A quote by Despretzel and Soto states that in the situation, the introduction of environmental regulation would induce firms to switch to the new, cleaner technology, which improves environmental quality and eventually increases productivity. The second part of my solution was a transition to clean energy. Clean energy is the use of renewable resources like solar power and wind power, and while these do have high upfront costs, in the long term, they're significantly cheaper than fossil fuels while creating job opportunities. A quote by the Renewable Power Generation Costs in 2024 states that in 2024 alone, switching over to clean energy saved $467 billion on fuels globally. Another quote by the Economic Case for Clean Energy Transition in 2023 states that a clean energy transition could lead to a net gain of 10 million jobs globally by 2030. A graph by Pew Research Center shows how many Americans encourage the production of wind and solar power, showing that 65% think we should transition to it, and 45% think that we should transition to nuclear power, which is slightly more dangerous, and 40% think we should start using electric vehicles, which also helps save the environment. The final part of my solution was bioremediation. The definition of bioremediation is the use of environmentally friendly bacteria that treats waste, producing water or harmless gases. This way is also significantly cheaper than carting things off into landfills. A quote by Van Dillen, a professor at Cambridge, states that bioremediation is often a permanent solution, providing complete transformation of pollutant to its molecular constituents, like carbon dioxide and water, rather than a remediation method that transforms water from one phase to another. A quote by Pingakar, a globally renowned author, states that it is anywhere between 50 and 70% cheaper than carting waste to landfills, which saves about $2 to $3 million per cleanup. So my total solution was by enforcing already created government policy, we could implement clean energy transition and bioremediation, which in turn could help companies and the world around them thrive. Another quote by the Review of Environmental Economics and Policy, also written by Joseph Prinzell, states that environmental regulation can promote innovation, lead to efficiency gains, and increases in firm level productivity in the long term. A quote by Progressive Cleaning the Air and Improving People's Health by US EPA states that economic welfare and economic growth rates are improved because cleaner air means fewer air pollution related illnesses, which in turn means less money spent on medical treatments and lower absenteeism among American workers. The limitation of my solution is that sometimes policy can become muddled between state and federal governments and making it hard for companies to flourish. And also there are high upfront costs in order to implement these solutions, and bioremediation as of right now requires almost near perfect conditions in order to work to its fullest potential. However, by the uses of international collaborations between governments and companies working together to find a proper solution, this could be easily sorted out. And the economic results for clean energy are just way better. And while no energy source is perfect, this is significantly better than using the fossil fuels that are being a detriment to our environments. And as well, technology is adapting every single day, and they've already created things like on-site engineering to create the specific bioremediation tactics needed for that specific site. The implication of my solution is that there will be high innovation and payoffs for companies while reducing healthcare costs or reducing the pollution in the air, and being cost effective. It also has implications for global ethics and justice to prevent inequality between first and third world countries as they both strive for the same goal of cleanliness. However, if a solution is not implemented, health crises will continue to occur as people continue to sicken and die from pollution. Ecosystems will continue to collapse, and economic losses would continue to destroy companies and job opportunities. However, this solution provides stability and corporate growth, and it also does this all in a feasible and worthwhile way. So that's my solution, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cindy. So a few follow-up questions. As you were resourcing, how did the stimulus materials inspire the original research that you decided to pursue this particular paper?
So initially I was going to look at specifically the bioremediation, but as I looked into how rates of transform the natural world, it discussed more and more how like there's more than just one thing affecting this, and that goes from like air pollution. And so it helped me like expand my perspective from not just agricultural pollution, but also air pollution and stuff that's affecting everyday people and not just those animals living beside the roads.
Okay, thank you. And then if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct that is related to the issue?
I probably would have looked more into probably how national parks can affect, like, do they change, like, if we have more trees in the area, does it change how much pollution is around? So, like, can we plant more trees and see if it helps at all? Is that like a remediation method that can be used rather than bioremediation? So I would have looked more into that.
Thank you, Sydney.